Whenever things change, big stuff like your company gets sold, medium stuff, you get a new GM or a new leader, or smaller stuff, you get a change in your pay plan or a new system or a new technology rolls out. The story your brain tells you is simple. The past was easy, therefore it must have been better. And the new thing is hard, therefore it must be worse. But here's the truth. Different and difficult aren't worse. In fact, they may be the best thing that's ever happened to you. Let me tell you why. I'm Chris Hunsaker, and this is the Dealership War Room. Leadership fire, 7 minutes, built daily, fueled intentionally, and delivered relentlessly. And today, we're going to dive in to that story that we tell ourselves that different and difficult is not always worse, and old and easy is not always better. So let's create some leadership fire. When my wife Sherry and I got married, we were still in college. She was a year ahead of me. And by the time I finished my undergraduate degree, we had our first child. By the time I got to graduate school, we had our second child. And life was hard. We had no money, we had no margin, and we were the true broke college students. And there was no way that we had extra money when we had the kids. But when we had our first child, that cost more money. Our life got harder. Studying was more difficult. Finding a way to make ends meet got harder. When we had our second child, it got even harder. But we never looked back and said, oh, do you remember when we didn't have kids? That was the best time of our life. Nobody does that. Nobody says, man, remember those 3 years before we had children? That was great. And every year since then, it's gotten worse. Every year since then, it's sucked more. No one does that because that would be insane. Yeah, life was easier before we had kids in every way, but it wasn't better. And the same is true for you. Every time we added a child to our family, life got more complicated, more demanding, more unknown, but also more meaningful, more powerful, more us. And now, every time I hold the grandchildren in my arms, there's not a single cell in my body that would trade this life for the easy life we had back then. You see, the brain has this default setting. Familiar equals safe, and different equals dangerous. Easy is good, hard is bad. And your brain lies to you because growth is never in the rearview mirror. Nostalgia is like a subtle poison that makes you long for a life that wasn't nearly as rich as the one that you're currently building. Maybe for you, it's not a buy sell. Maybe it's a change in the comp plan that rattled your team, or a new leader that just does things differently, or a new system that has upended your entire workflow. Maybe you've got turnover that's left you shorthanded, or it could just be the emotional wear and tear of trying to lead people who aren't easy to lead. You might be tempted to say, man, things used to be better. But were they really? Or were they just familiar? Because what's happening now, it might be what finally builds you. When Sherry and I had those babies, we didn't just survive. We became more patient, more focused, more creative, more faithful. And now that pressure created a life that we wouldn't trade for anything. And that pressure might be doing exactly the same thing for you right now. So here's your bonus weekend challenge. I'd love you to grab a piece of paper, a notebook, a journal, and just write down the answers to these two questions. What part of my life feels hard and different right now? And question number two, what might that pressure be trying to build in me? And just write those out. See what comes to mind. See what happens to your mindset, your focus, and your sense of commitment. Because this is where your executional identity is formed. Not in the calm, but in the chaos. Not when everything's certain, but when everything is uncertain and you choose to lead anyway. Again, I am sorry. I missed Wednesday. Life got full, and that's on me. That's a bad planning, bad choices. But maybe this was the episode that you were meant to hear. Different, difficult, but better. So let's go create some leadership fire, and I will see you Monday in the Dealership War Room.